What if everything you thought you knew about Neanderthals was wrong? For centuries, we've been told a simple story: that they were primitive, destined to vanish, while Homo sapiens rose as the superior species. But what if that story is incomplete? What if it hides something far more fascinating? A tale of resilience, adaptation, and survival. This is the untold history of the Neanderthals. And as we uncover it, I invite you to subscribe, so you never miss the hidden chapters of our shared human journey. The image of the Neanderthal is deeply ingrained in our culture. You know the one. A hunched-over, club-wielding brute, grunting and struggling to survive in a harsh world. This picture has been painted for us in museums, textbooks, and movies for over 100 years. It's a compelling, simple narrative. They were the losers, we were the winners. But modern science is telling us to tear up that script. The latest discoveries are not just adding details to the old story. They're forcing us to write a completely new one. This isn't just about correcting a few facts. It's about reevaluating our own place in history and understanding a lost branch of our own human family. So let us leave the cliches at the cave entrance and step into the real world of the Neanderthals. For decades, Neanderthals have been depicted as brutish, slow, and doomed. Textbooks taught us they vanished. Movies mocked them as grunting cavemen. But archaeology now reveals something else entirely. The story of their extinction is not one of weakness, but of transformation. If this already makes you question what you've been told, leave a like. It tells us you want more of these hidden truths revealed. The classic narrative goes like this. Around 40,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans, our direct ancestors, swept into Europe. With our supposedly bigger brains, better tools, and more complex social structures, we simply outcompeted the Neanderthals. They couldn't keep up. They were pushed into marginal lands, their populations dwindled, and eventually, they faded into oblivion. It's a story of replacement, a clean-cut victory. But this great extinction model is starting to look less like a historical reality and more like a myth we told ourselves to feel special. The evidence just doesn't support such a simple takeover. Instead of a swift disappearance, we see a long overlapping period where both groups coexisted, and the idea that they were just less than us is being challenged on every front. The more we dig, the more we find that the line between us and them is incredibly blurry. Look closer, and the myth begins to crumble. Neanderthals made finely crafted stone blades. They shaped bone into tools, they lit fires, and they adapted to their environments with precision. And they dreamed. They painted caves, they carved ornaments, they expressed imagination. More than that, they cared for their wounded, they looked after their elderly. This was not a species without empathy. It was one bound by community. If you know someone who still sees Neanderthals as mere primitives, share this video with them. The truth deserves to be spread. Let's talk about their technology. The Mousterian tool industry, long associated with Neanderthals, was incredibly sophisticated. They used a technique called l'évaluat, where they would meticulously prepare a stone core to strike off a perfectly shaped flake with a single blow. This requires forethought, planning, and a deep understanding of the material. It's the ancient equivalent of a master craftsman knowing their wood or metal. We've also found evidence of them using birch bark pitch, an ancient superglue to attach stone points to wooden spears. Making this adhesive is a complex multi-step process that requires precise temperature control. This isn't the work of simpletons, it's the work of chemists. And what about their culture? At the Bruniquel cave in France, Neanderthals ventured deep underground and broke off stalagmites to construct mysterious circular structures. What was their purpose? A ritual space? A social gathering place? We don't know for sure, but we know it wasn't for shelter. It was symbolic. This, along with discoveries of eagle talons used as jewelry and pigments for body paint, shows a capacity for abstract thought we once thought was uniquely human. From the frozen tundras of Ice Age Europe to the dense forests of the Mediterranean, Neanderthals thrived. They hunted mammoths with strategy, tracked reindeer across icy plains, and fished in rivers. They adapted to every challenge, surviving for over 300,000 years. And yet, when Homo sapiens arrived, something changed. But was it truly competition, or was it connection? If you've stayed with us this far, you are part of this exploration. Comment, "I am here for the truth." Let us see how many of us are rewriting history together. Their survival for hundreds of thousands of years through multiple ice ages is, by itself, a testament to their incredible success. This was a species that was perfectly adapted to its environment. Their stocky build and large nasal cavities were ideal for conserving heat in cold climates. Fossil records show they were powerful hunters, taking on large game like woolly rhinos and giant deer. But they weren't just big game specialists. Analysis of their teeth shows they ate a varied diet, including plants, nuts, and marine resources like mussels and seals. They were flexible and opportunistic. They weren't just surviving, they were flourishing. So, what happened when Homo sapiens entered the picture? The old model suggests we pushed them out. But a new theory is gaining ground. Perhaps we didn't replace them at all. Perhaps we joined them. The evidence for this is not in the stones, but in our very genes. The most revolutionary discovery in Neanderthal research didn't come from a cave. It came from a lab. In 2010, scientists successfully sequenced the Neanderthal genome. And when they compared it to the DNA of modern humans, they found something astonishing. Most people of non-African descent today carry between 1 to 4% Neanderthal DNA. Let that sink in. They didn't just disappear. They assimilated. They had children with our ancestors, and their genetic legacy lives on inside billions of us. This wasn't a one-off event. It happened multiple times in different places over thousands of years. This means our ancestors and Neanderthals didn't just see each other as competitors or enemies. They saw each other as partners. They formed families. They created hybrid communities. The story of Neanderthal extinction is not a story of death, but of love and merger. The Neanderthals never truly vanished. They just became part of us. Their genes contribute to our immune systems, our hair, our skin, and even our susceptibility to certain diseases. They are an inseparable part of the modern human story. So, why did we tell ourselves the story of the brutish loser for so long? Maybe it was a way to define ourselves. By painting them as primitive, we could paint ourselves as advanced, as the pinnacle of evolution. It was an intellectual justification for our own perceived superiority. But science is now humbling us. It's showing us that the human family tree is not a straight line leading to us, but a tangled, branching bush with many different, equally valid ways of being human. The Neanderthals were not a failed experiment. They were a successful, intelligent, and resilient people who are still with us in our DNA. The real Neanderthal survival story is far more complex and beautiful than the myth of extinction. It's a story of adaptation, of culture, of connection, and ultimately, of integration. They are the ghost in our machine, the silent contributors to who we are today. By understanding their true story, we better understand our own. Thank you for joining me on this journey into our shared past. If you found this as fascinating as I do, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into history's forgotten chapters. See you next time. The answer lies in our blood. Modern genetics reveals that when Neanderthals and Homo sapiens met, they didn't just clash, they mingled. They formed bonds. They had families. And today, inside billions of people, fragments of Neanderthal DNA remain alive. These genes made us stronger, better adapted to cold, more resistant to certain diseases. Their survival became our survival. What do you think? Is this extinction or is it a form of immortality? Share your thoughts in the comments because your perspective shapes how this story continues. But genes weren't the only things exchanged. Tools, hunting strategies, even rituals may have passed from Neanderthals to our own ancestors. Far from being outmatched, Neanderthals may have influenced Homo sapiens in ways we're only now beginning to understand. Perhaps the fire that lit the first great human migrations carried a spark of Neanderthal wisdom. If that idea fascinates you as much as it does me, make sure you're subscribed, because there are countless other mysteries waiting to be uncovered. So what really happened? Neanderthals didn't vanish in a single cataclysm. Their story isn't one of sudden death. Instead, they were absorbed, Generation after generation, small groups merged into the growing tide of Homo sapiens. Their distinct identity may have faded, but their blood flowed onward. They live within us still. If this reshapes the way you think about our past, hit that like button, because this isn't an ending, but a transformation. The truth is powerful. Neanderthals never truly disappeared. They endure, in our DNA, in our resilience, in the way we adapted to survive as one humanity. When you look in the mirror, you're not just looking at a Homo sapiens. You carry the strength of another kind of human, one that weathered the storms of the Ice Age and passed on the gift of endurance. This is not a story of failure. It's a story of legacy. Share this video to keep their memory alive, and subscribe if you believe more of humanity's untold stories deserve to be heard. Because the past is never truly gone. It lives in us, waiting to be rediscovered.